I do welcome you. This is an information session about the undergraduate program in rehabilitation science at the School of Health and Rehab Science, or Sciences, here at the University of Pittsburgh. We have a relatively new director, Tom Platt, and I am the academic advisor and assistant director for the program. And I've been here since 2002, I believe. The program started in 1999 or 2000. And then Natalie is our program administrator, and it's been just a really super help. So we'll get started. Maybe. We also have, in addition to myself giving the presentation and Natalie being here to help out, we also have a whole host of students and alumni. And we are just so lucky to have both students and alumni who will volunteer for us and share their experiences. I think it speaks really highly of the program, but I have to also say that our students and alumni are the best, and I will probably repeat that multiple times because it is true. But the guests that we have today are Julie Bauer, who is the class of 2010 and is now an OT. Rochelle Brick, who is also an OT and class of 2014 from the Rehab Science program. Trying to do a little bit of alphabetizing, can't talk. Becca Heitlinger, who is now a physician assistant, class of 2016. Morgan Lishowa, prosthetics and orthotics, class of 2018. And then Allison Troilo, physical therapist, class of 2016. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, the audience, for being here as well. And we will have time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation, or you can certainly interrupt us as we're going along if you prefer to. So this undergraduate program was designed, as I said, in about 1999. I think they actually started on it a little bit sooner, by the PT program and the OT program, and also our rehab technology program. And it was designed to prepare students for undergraduate or for graduate studies in their departments, in PT and OT initially, and also assistive technology. Because we were preparing students to work with people and to work in rehabilitation and in a healthcare setting, we also became known as a program that was very good at preparing students for physician assistant as well, medicine, and many other things students have gone into. And we'll talk about that, I think, in the next slide. This is an upper division program. The school is an upper division school and a professional school. So this means that students enter our program as juniors, and they stay for their junior and their senior year. We do usually receive about 150 applications for about 80 seats. We've been capped at 80 seats just because of the size, the physical size of our school. That's the largest that we feel like we can admit, and still have space in most of our classes for students to sit. So as you can see, that means that we have a slightly competitive application and admission process, sometimes more competitive than others. So there you go. So yes, the professional programs that our students have gone into fairly routinely are ones that are here in the School of Health and Rehab Sciences, although not all of our students come to the School of Health and Rehab Sciences at the University of Pittsburgh. Many of our students, as you will hear from our alumni, do choose to go to other institutions, and we are very happy about that, or at least I'm very happy about that. I think it's fantastic for our students to get that broader experience, and it also gets our name out there. So you can see our students have done things, again, occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician assistant studies, all of those being probably the most common for our students to do. And then we usually have a good handful of students who do prosthetics and orthotics or other rehabilitation technology. And we're really lucky to have an alum who is here from prosthetics and orthotics, since we do have such a small handful, and we got one. So thank you, Morgan. We've also had students go into mental health counseling, and we have recently had more and more students go into medicine, accelerated nursing. We've always had some students go into public health and social work, and we've even had students change their mind entirely in terms of clinical work and go into education. And this program is an undergraduate program. It's a Bachelor of Science in Rehabilitation Science, meaning that you still get a well-rounded education, and we really try to maintain that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slides, but we really try to give students an opportunity to design their own plan of study to prepare them for what they want to do, which also means that they're allowed to change their mind while they're here, and that's very common. Some of our students have chosen not to go straight into graduate school and have chosen to work for a while before graduate school, or perhaps just work for a while and not go back to graduate school, although I think the latter is less common. From what I have heard from students, the majority do eventually go to graduate school, usually within a few years. But we have had students place into national service, whether that was military or Teach for America or the Peace Corps. We've had many students go into research, and we've also had many students work in clinical settings where they're continuing to get experience that they will apply toward their application for graduate school. So the most common career direction of the students in this program is physical therapy. That continues to be true, although occasionally physician assistant studies really gives PT a run for the money. Occupational therapy seems to vary quite a bit. Sometimes we have only a few, and sometimes we have quite a large group of pre-OT students. We do have increasing numbers of students who are pre-med, either coming into the program thinking that they're pre-med, or when they're here deciding that in fact they want to pursue medicine. Sometimes we certainly have people come in thinking they want to pursue medicine and then deciding that they want to do something else. It's more typical for students who are interested in prosthetics and orthotics to enter the program and then realize, oh, this is an option for me, and then head that direction. Occasionally we have someone who already knows about prosthetics and orthotics and comes into the program for that. And then accelerated nursing, it's most common for students to come into our program and learn that they can go into an accelerated nursing or a direct entry nursing program while they're here, and that becomes a direction that they want to head in. So we've had quite a good number of students since 2003. Actually, our first graduating class graduated in 2002, right before I got here. We do have a relatively low attrition rate, meaning that most students who enter into our program do choose to stay and graduate from our program. The vast majority do. So out of the 1,300 some, I think we've had maybe about 15 who have decided not to continue with the program. I might be completely wrong about that, but I know it's a section in a filing cabinet that is not that big. Our students are very successful getting into graduate programs, and it's in part, I think, because, well, it's because our students are so fabulous. That's the real reason. They are smart, they're driven, they are idealistic, they are real go-getters. So they are getting themselves into graduate programs. This program is also quite challenging, or can be quite challenging, and also, like I said, it gives you a nice, well-rounded education. And so I think that is also appealing to graduate programs. And I believe as time has gone on, and as you'll hear from our alum, they've gotten the word out to graduate programs that we are a good program that prepares students very well. If you are interested in U.S. News and World Report rankings, then you'll be interested to see that we have over 50% of our PT students be admitted into top 10 PT programs. So this includes Pitt, but it also includes Delaware and many of the other of the top 10 programs. And then 99% of our pre-OT students go on to top 10 programs in OT. So including Pitt's program, but also BU and I think WashU. So yes, our students have been very successful with graduate school, and that's what they have chosen to do. So why would you want to come into the rehab science program besides that preparation? I'll talk about what I think is particularly important or good about the program, but then I'll ask the students and alum to maybe chime in, any of them that want to offer something. But I really think that we've tried to create a curriculum that prepares students in a number of different arenas. So we have the applied human sciences like anatomy and physiology and kinesiology, but then we also have psychosocial aspects of disability that we cover. And this really sets us apart, I believe, from other undergraduate programs in rehabilitation science around the country. So psychosocial aspects, meaning that you learn in some cases from people with disabilities, in other cases from clinicians, about what it's like to live with a disability, but also what it's like to work with people with disabilities, and how can you do that most successfully. And you also learn about society and policy that affects people with disability. And then we also have you learn some about the healthcare system in general. How does the US healthcare system work or not work? And also, what are the different parts of it? What are all the moving pieces? And where do you as a practitioner fit in? We also offer what we call 3 certificates, or 3 what we call certificates. There's one that's pre-physical therapy, one pre-occupational therapy, and then one that's geared toward teaching you more about assistive technologies. Those certificates are for students who are already majoring in our program, and then this sort of guides their studies with, what electives will help them most for PT or OT or for technology. Another big piece of what makes our program fantastic, a really huge piece, fundamental. As you might have heard us talking about Dr. Carbell, who teaches in neuroscience, is our faculty. Our faculty are faculty from different departments of our school. So the graduate programs that students are most interested in. And they're also adjunct faculty who are clinicians working in the fields, again, that they are teaching about. So the people teaching for us are professionals, and they are they're not volunteering their time, but they are choosing to teach for us. They are not made to, because we don't actually belong to a program. They don't belong to us, so we can't make them teach for us. So we get this fantastic group of faculty who like to teach undergraduates and like to inspire undergraduates. And I think that is really something that stands out for this program. They're very supportive, they're very engaged with the students, and they want to see the students do well. And then the students, as I said before, are just really, I think, the best. They are, and you all can disagree with me if you want, but I don't think you will. You all are very smart, very driven, very goal-oriented, and very caring. I think that the last being what really makes this program special. You can find very smart and driven and goal-oriented people in the biology department and then in the neuroscience department. But I think what makes SHRS and the undergraduate program in rehabilitation science feel like home for so many of us is that we are supportive of each other. And I hear that from students, that they feel like, yes, they're all competitive. Yes, they all want to do very well, but they want to pull each other up with them. So I really have liked seeing that in our program. But can anyone else speak to that? Any of our alumni or Mia, our student?
I could go. So I'm a current senior in the program, and just talking about like the support and drive, and Dr. Carvel, we actually have a neuro exam on Friday, and after this I'm going to meet with some of my fellow students to like help prepare. And I don't know if it's because we have a smaller class and it's only about 80 students, or I think just the general atmosphere through the rehab science program is very collaborative and everybody wants to support each other, which is something that I really appreciate within the program. I've always feel like I can go to my classmates, ask if we can like collaborate and work through what somebody, one person might understand something a little bit more than the other, and working through the issues you're having together, I felt has made me not only a stronger student, but has made me better able to like apply my knowledge. And also with the professors being from graduate schools, I feel like you get a little bit like your education compared to the people who are in like different fields at Pitt. I just feel like I'm getting a little bit more than they are because all of our professors are from the graduate program, which I appreciate as well.
Thank you, Mia. Do any of our alum want to speak to any of these issues or anything else that you thought was particularly helpful about the curriculum or the, I guess, the people in the program?
Yeah, so going off of the like community and stuff that Mia touched on, I even noticed it. I noticed it when I was in my undergrad, but then also in grad school. There was a lot of times I was reaching out to fellow classmates. I'm like, did you save this PowerPoint from Gate or stuff like that that I noticed I needed in grad school? And I'm O&P, but they were like PTs, OTs, and it's nice to have that now on being on the other side of school in the real world. It's nice to have people on the other side too, just to like bounce ideas off of. And I know I've reached out to a few people like, do you happen to know a therapist in this area? And so you have those connections in the classroom to get you through your neuro exam, but then those connections follow you to the real world too, which I think is something really special about this program. And talking with other people that are my age in my field, like they don't have that. And so it's just nice to like that network, you have it in school, but then it also follows you when you're out seeing patients too, which is, it's a good benefit.
Thank you, Morgan. That's such a good insight. I'm writing it down so I can remember.
Would I be able to piggy off on that?
Absolutely, please.
So not only are you able to, generalize like the assistant from your classmates to then when you're out in the real world practicing, but I also, was able to capitalize on long-term relationships with the faculty and professors. So from my undergrad experience, one of the faculty members who wrote my letter of rec to get into OT school, we ended up staying in touch and discussing more about research, and she really stayed invested. And then she ended up being one of my committee members on my dissertation. And I think that shows, the long-term commitment over 10 years, how someone can really stay invested. And I find that to be very unique and not something that may occur in another program that's much larger or has such, great connections with its students. So that's also a great benefit to the program.
Thank you, Rochelle. Yes, I think that we do have, from what I hear fairly universally, your experience here is very rich, and you can make it rich by doing this networking and taking advantage of the opportunities that are here. So the other thing that I really particularly like about the program is that it is quite flexible, and I had talked about this a little bit before. This allows our students to design their own path of study, meaning that they can prepare themselves for different professions, different from each other, but they can also change gears and head in a different direction once they're here if they want to do that. But we also offer quite a few electives, and we allow there's enough wiggle room for you to continue to take electives in the other schools of the university. But also we encourage students to study abroad if they want to, and to seek minors and certificates inside or outside of our school. So again, I really value this sort of well-rounded education, which I think helps to create more resilient and more nimble thinkers and students. There's also enough time sometimes for you to get clinical experience, and we certainly try to encourage that, and we try to support that. One way that we do that is that we offer what we call field experience, which means that we can give you credit for doing clinical work. Most of our students at some point do some kind of clinical experience. So whether that's voluntary or if it's a paid position or they're simply observing, students are doing this because this is part of their application process for getting into graduate school. Or it may be, it's also their way of knowing, is this what it is that I want to do in terms of pursuing a certain career? So again, we do encourage this, and networking is a really great way of getting that, finding those clinical experiences, whether that is through your faculty mentor who we have assigned to you based on your professional experience, interest, or if it's with your classmates, or if it's with other faculty. And then also, of course, just looking on job sites. We also keep lists of clinical opportunities or clinical clinics in the area that sometimes do work with our students. We also really encourage students to be involved with community service and volunteering. I can remember in particular, this was a big part of Rochelle's education. I remember seeing her downtown one time as she was volunteering. I can't remember doing what, but but there she was. And then we also encourage students, when they want to be involved in research at the undergraduate level. And this often does open up doors for research at the graduate level as well. We also do pair with the Honors College to offer what we call it at the University of Pittsburgh, the BPhil. So meaning an undergraduate research degree where you do the requirements for the Bachelor of Science, but you also do write your own thesis and defend it in front of a committee. And I believe that Rochelle did that as well. I think she may have been one of either our first or one of our first BPhil students, actually. So is there anything on here that any of you would like to speak to that I didn't cover, or that needs to be, that you just have a comment about?
I can talk about this one.
Okay.
This was actually one of my favorite parts about the program, was how flexible it was. And I felt like the program would fit into what I wanted to do, rather than me having to fit into what the program wanted me to do. I did a lot of different things while I was in the program. I volunteered at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh throughout my time in the program, in their PT department. And then I ended up also doing a study abroad program that wasn't sponsored by SHRS. And I remember going to Amy's office and telling her that I really, really wanted to do it. And like, there was no way she could convince me otherwise. And I gave her the list of courses, and she took the time to like sit down with me and make sure that I would still be on track to get all of my credits and graduate on time. And then even I remember when I was abroad, she had reached out to me while I was there and asked how it was going and what my favorite part was. So I think that goes a little bit back to about the community aspect and how you always will feel supported regardless of what you want to do with your time in the program. And then one other thing I always remember too, Amy would reach out to us with emails pretty frequently about different volunteer or paid opportunities. So that was really great too, because you had the chance to dabble in different areas. And Amy always had the in on those.
Because luckily people send me opportunities, because I know, again, that our students are willing and they're very helpful and they're very good when they do take these positions. Thank you for sharing that, Allison. Yes, I think when Allison came through, well, we do sometimes have students who are doing non-healthcare related study abroad, and we actually really encourage any kind of study abroad, and definitely want to make that something that can work for the student, because it is such a valuable experience. And Allison, I'm so glad that you did that. I think, did you go to Italy or something? Yeah. So yes, there are so many different things that you can do while you're an undergraduate student, and we really want to encourage that as even an undergraduate in the BSRS program.
If I could add something to the that topic, I had responded to an email that you had sent out, Amy, about a paid position in the area to be a personal care attendant for a woman who lived nearby campus. And I responded, I still remember getting that email. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect thing. I have to like, I was like in my mind, like try to push everyone else out of line. Like I got to be the first one out. I wanted that job so bad. And I got it. And I worked with this woman so I guess like junior year, I guess I started that. And then I had a couple of majors. And so I was at Pitt for 5 years, and I worked with her my whole time. And I remember my teary goodbye working with this woman. And it was just such a positive experience. She was someone who had sustained a pretty serious spinal cord injury as a child, and but was living independently in her apartment, just with the help of personal care attendants at scheduled times in her day. And so now I'm doing occupational therapy, and just, an invaluable experience. So I was very grateful, Amy, for you passing those opportunities along to students, because it was just really, built such a practical foundation for things that we were learning in class. So it was a great opportunity.
Thank you for saying, Julie. And yes, we have quite a few people in the community who have.
Amy?
Yes.
Becca has her hand raised.
Okay. Does Becca want to speak?
Oh, I will speak after you're done.
I was just going to say that there are a few people in the community who do use our students as personal care attendants. I think that word has spread that sometimes our students will do that, and that our students are very good, very responsible, and very caring, and very capable assistants. So yes, thank you, Julie. That has been a really a valuable part of our program for our students, but also a really valuable service that we can give to the community. Becca, what were you going to say? I think you're muted.
There we go. Technical difficulties. So I just really liked the slide. So in my experience at SHRS, I think the two things that were great about it, so I was undecided, let's say, going into the SHRS program, and I kind of tossed up medicine, nurse practitioner, physician assistant, occupational therapy, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, which is why I entered the rehab science program, because I wanted to get that OT kind of exposure, because the rest was kind of related. So this really helped kind of give me all the classes I needed, essentially, were part of my major for pre-PA school, which was fantastic. I think I only had to take a couple of extra things that weren't included in the major. But what that left over was so much free time, because as your general electives or general education classes are eliminated, it kind of frees up the rest of your schedule. I took like exercise class a semester. I took some fantasy literature classes. I took some pretty Asian religions. Like I took a lot of different classes, and I got a lot of different exposures that I may have not had time for, trying to fit in everything for like a biology major, and also my pre-PA stuff, or if I would have gone into a different program. But I thought that part of this program was excellent. And I just really enjoyed this program, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Becca. And I always appreciate when students do explore other disciplines. Yes. So I enjoy, one, I just enjoy hearing about it, but two, I think it's really valuable. You learn different things, and you learn skills, but also just information that you maybe wouldn't ever think you would want to or need to know, but it often does come in handy, at least the skills that you learn in all these classes. So thank you. All right, so we've been sort of skirting around. what is the curriculum? And you see that the requirements for this degree are not really that many. For being here for 2 years, which would be about 60 credits typically, we only require about 30, or a little bit more than 30 credits of coursework. So you can see what the required core courses are: the anatomy, intro to rehab science, which talks about the different professions within rehab sciences, medical terminology, issues in healthcare, pharmacology, and then psych and sociology of disability. Core areas are areas of information that we want you to know, and there are multiple classes that will teach you about that. And we offer a class that fulfills each of these requirements, but you do not have to take our class to fulfill these requirements. So those are human physiology. There's also a biology section that teaches biology, and a neuroscience section that teaches human physiology. Neuroscience, as I think Rochelle noted, she had taken through the psychology department. We offer a neuroscience, but of course the neuroscience department does as well. Research methodology, we allow students to take research methodology in the psychology department, and we also offer ours, which we think is a better experience for students, or better preparation for the graduate programs to which they are usually applying, but you certainly can take it through the psychology department as well, and it is a very good class. Global citizenship, there are multiple classes that would fulfill this requirement, and again, we do offer a class of our own. And then we have added, since all of our alumni were here, we've added a third intensive writing class, and this one has to be health or science related. And we don't offer this class in our program. These are actually offered through the English comp department. They are the masters of writing and helping you to become strong writers. So you do have to do a minimum of 30 credits from the School of Health and Rehab Sciences, any of our departments. And if you were taking all of these required courses through our program, that would fulfill all those 30 credits. Otherwise, you can take electives from our program to beef up to the 30 credits, or you can take classes from other departments like nutrition or athletic training or emergency medicine. And then at the University of Pittsburgh, 120 credits is required for graduation. These are some of our electives, some of our more commonly taken and commonly enjoyed electives. And I just wanted to hear from our students and alum what their favorite class in the program was. I'm going to call on people. So Morgan just moved herself to the top because she unmuted.
I was gonna say, I think I'm biased because I'm in O&P, but the intro to orthotics and prosthetics class was my personal favorite. It was really nice too, just to be able to like kind of see what we'd be getting into. And I remember when I went to grad school, because well, in that class you get to fabricate a few devices, and you just get to like be in an O&P lab and just see like what the grad school setup is like. And so not only was the material in the class nice, but also the setting of the class being in the grad school location. I did my grad school out in California, so the lab was obviously different and everything was different. But just having that semester of already kind of working your way around an O&P lab and then having the experience of fabricating those devices too was a great experience and very helpful to me. I wish I would have kept my AFO that I made in that class because I can only imagine what it looked like. But it was really helpful moving forward, and it really just locked in, and that's what I wanted to do.
Excellent. Thank you, Morgan. Allison, you're next on my screen.
Well, I had to ask, I think this is kind of a fan favorite, but which one is Dave's class?
Oh, Dave's class, Dave Harding teaches one of the core, actually. So
that's a core course. Okay.
He teaches the, what does he teach, Amy? Psych and sociology of disability, and Dave is still with us. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really great class, and I think everybody loves that class. Dave is a really funny and great professor. And from what I remember, we had different people come in who, like Amy said, live with different disabilities and talk about their experiences on like a daily basis and in the working world. I remember being assigned like an individual in the community who has a disability, who we went to this person's office and like interviewed them and did a whole presentation on them. So that's a really cool class. Can I pick a second one?
And yes.
I also really liked the pathophysiology class, which I think is a little bit of a notoriously hard class, but it's really, really interesting. And I would say it's not directly related to what I do as a physical therapist every day. But I actually work in the hospital setting, and you learn about a ton of different conditions and diseases that you might not have known about before. And I remember everybody had to pick a disease or a condition and do like a presentation on it. So you got to learn like people's firsthand experiences, or people's maybe something that someone's family member lives with. So that one was really cool too.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything that pops out for them?
I just wanted to, the class that you guys were talking about when I joined the session this evening was neuroscience. And I just wanted to bring it up in the sense that I retook the course. I guess I didn't have to, got a C, wanted to do better. Plus it was just, it's just fascinating information. So I did retake that and got a little bit better. But I just wanted to bring it up in the fact that I felt like I was super duper prepared for grad school. And that's without even doing really well in the course. I still felt very prepared for my grad school neuroscience course. And that field has just continued to be an area of interest to me. And that's my, where I've spent the majority of my professional career is in traumatic brain injury rehabilitation. So even if you don't get an A+, you can you can still learn some really great applications that can help you in your career path.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to tell George. He'll be so pleased.
Good. Yes. And I still have his very informative PowerPoint slides.
That's, yes, I think that's very wise. Everyone should take note.
Stuff on there.
I just want to say I just took this class last semester, and it's definitely been my favorite, kinesiology and biomechanics. I'm really interested in orthopedics and joint mechanics. And so this class it was cool. And I find myself, like when you're outside just walking or at the gym, I catch a lot of things that I learned from that class, and you're like, oh, like they're using their joints incorrectly there, and their gait cycle's messed up, and they have this injury on this side, and you could tell by the gait cycle. So that was definitely my favorite class, and I feel like it's I catch myself using that information all the time.
Thank you, Mia. Anyone else want to jump in before we move to the next about prerequisites?
I can quickly just say I hopped into the program thinking I was going to apply to medical school, and then I actually took the Intro to Occupation Science course when Pam Toto was still teaching it, and it changed my whole career trajectory, and now I'm an OT for the best. And so I think that's really nice that you can take some of these elective classes and still find, you're able to go into a related field that you can be really passionate about, that you may not have known about earlier.
Thank you, Rochelle. And I will say that every professor who has taught that class, it has been her mission to recruit students to change their minds. Yes, they are good. Okay.
I was also just going to shout out the occupational science class as well. That one was fun. It's definitely I also liked
Oh, we lost you and now you're muted.
I'm just having major technical difficulties apparently. But no, I was just going to say occupation science was probably one of my favorites, and just a lot of fun in that class, and learned a lot. And just even though I didn't go into occupation science, it was very applicable. Just thinking about, you know, how people are going to need to adapt. So I definitely liked that class.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, it's a class that I really enjoy hearing about from students, because it's one that isn't particularly academically difficult, but is very meaningful and valuable for students. It's one that gives you a lot of good insight into working with real people. So,
Amy, I wanted to just add to that. The electives are really nice, and just kind of what people were saying too about changing your trajectory when you're in the program. You never feel like that was like you wasted time or you took a class you didn't have to. So I'm a physical therapist, and on a daily basis, I work with OTs, PAs, prosthetists, orthotists. So like everybody who's in this group talking right now, I work with on a daily basis. And I think everyone could probably agree that. So I feel like just getting insight into what other people do too, who are going to be your colleagues, is also really helpful.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Allison. All right, so if you were interested in this undergraduate program, now that you've heard how fantastic it is, the prerequisites for the program are fairly basic, but also fairly extensive. So we do need for students to have a good solid background in the sciences. So we require the bio 1 in the lab, the chemistry 1 in lab, and a physics 1. At the University of Pittsburgh, physics 1 does not have a lab, so we don't require that regardless of where you have taken it. We do require math. Students can test out of that with their SAT scores. Statistics, also intro to psychology, human development, which includes developmental psychology, but we really prefer a lifespan development because most of our students will go on to professions where they're probably working with a broader age range than just the children or birth through adolescence. And then we do require that you do as a prerequisite 2 English composition classes, or 1 English composition and 1 writing, what University of Pittsburgh calls a writing intensive class. So you're getting some good practice with writing before you come into the program. And then we also require at this point, and for students who would be entering our program in fall of 22, yes, fall of 22, 6 credits of humanities and or social sciences. Now, in fall of 23, we change our prerequisites to include a few other things. So we define those humanities and social sciences. We need to have specifically 3 credits of humanities. So we're including the arts or creative work, ethics, or literature as defined by the university. We need 3 credits of a course that fulfills a diversity requirement, gen ed requirement for the university, also 3 credits of global awareness or cultural understanding, as well as 3 credits of public speaking, and then 3 credits of a social science, again, as defined by the arts and sciences gen ed requirements. So we're trying to enforce a little bit of exploring and getting a really good solid foundation as an undergraduate degree. So who are we looking for? You've met who we were looking for. We want students who are kind, I'm going to say first, kind and want to help other people, who are helpers. Because the program has challenging classes, we also need to know that you can be up to an academic challenge. That does not mean that you have to be a straight A student. It just means that you need to show improvement over time and that you need to have some facility with sciences. So again, we do require those preliminary sciences, the first level of biology and chemistry and physics. And we like to see, if you didn't start off strong, which is true with almost everybody, that you have improved over time, that you're learning how to learn better as you go. We do like to see students who have some sort of experience with disability or with injury and rehab, because we need to know that you actually have an idea of what it is that you're headed toward, hopefully. And also something that drives you, because this can be a fairly tough program and you want to have that inner drive. We also do like to see that students have other interests, that they do other things outside of the sciences and outside of healthcare. Again, that just brings some diversity into our program and makes us stronger. And it also makes you stronger just as a whole person. The minimum GPA of students admitted into the program is a 2.75. What we have found over the years is that the students who actually were admitted, the average GPA is around a 3.4. And that varies some, and certainly that's the average. We range anywhere from that 2.75 to 4.0. Usually the minimum GPA of students admitted hovers around a 3.0 or a 2.9. Average science GPA is around a 3.1. And again, that varies, and the range of grades is quite large. The minimum science GPA is a 2.5. And then if you want any more information, I see that we are running out of time, but you can certainly contact me. My email is there, or there's a general email which Natalie will answer, and she can point you in the right direction for whatever information you might need. And that's the undergrad rehab science at shrs.pitt.edu. And I am also, if you're a current Pitt student, you can set up an appointment with me anytime. I'm happy to meet with people. I'm on the Navigate Pathways system, so you can find me through that. You can also send an email and I can send you the link to schedule an appointment with me. And then you can find more information about the program in general at shrs.pitt.edu. And then I did want to open up, even though we have only a few minutes left, I would like our one student representative and our alumni a chance to give any final words of advice that they have for anyone who's interested in the program. But I also would like to open up the session for questions. So I'll ask the students and alumni to give their final wrap up, anything that they feel like is important that they weren't able to say or I didn't ask them to say, or any advice that they have, and then we'll open up for questions. And I apologize that we're running out of time. So anyone who needs to leave is, of course, free to leave, and we'll do our best without you. But why don't we go in order of the slide, because that's easier. So Mia, do you want to give a final wrap up of what you think is important to share?
I just think it's important to know that this program really does give you a holistic and well-rounded view of healthcare. You learn, like you heard, about what healthcare is, disabilities within it, and then the basics of healthcare, which is all really important. And you get to make these connections with people who, as the alumni have said, that you continue to talk to throughout your career. So it's really an amazing program, and I recommend it to everybody.
Thanks, Mia. Julie?
Hi. Yeah, so trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to add. I guess just I appreciated the small size. Pitt, obviously, everyone knows, is a pretty big place. And so it was nice to have this kind of home base, physical space in Forbes Tower, and then just this smaller class sizes, a very personal feeling. And Amy is great to work with too. So she's a bonus.
Thank you, Julie. I paid her off. Rochelle?
Julie stole my thunder. I was going to say, it's really lucky to be in this program, and you do get a lot of personal attention and assistance. Amy is your advisor, and she's able to help you with so many things and presents you with a lot of opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily get in other larger programs. And so it's just really fortunate to be around a lot of rich experiences and be guided by an excellent leader.
Thanks, Rochelle. Becca?
So again, Julie kind of hit it on the head there, but something else would be just the preparation it provides for pretty much any graduate program that you're going to be trying to apply to in the medical field. I just feel that I was very prepared by this program, and it definitely gave me the time to explore and kind of figure out what I was going to do with my career, and I'm very happy with what I chose. So I do definitely attribute some of that and a lot of it to our rehab science program.
Thank you, Becca. Morgan?
Yeah, so following up from Becca, I think when you're deciding to go when you're a sophomore in college and you're deciding where to go, the rehab science program is such a good option if you're curious in medicine or anything rehab, because it does set you up for grad school, but it also sets you up for the next step too, the real world. And so to anyone debating it, I don't think you'll go wrong. So I would definitely go rehab science.
Thanks, Morgan. And Allison?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody else said, but I have absolutely no regrets about doing this major and being a part of this program. And I think it set me up great to continue with physical therapy school at Pitt, but would have set me up to do well in graduate school at any university as well. And like everybody else said, just really prepares you for the career that you want and a career that you're going to like and that you're passionate about, which is also really important. So, and you're around other people who feel the same way and feel passionate about what they want to do.
Thank you, Allison. So audience, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see more people. You have these fantastic alumni, and you have a student, and you have me. So what questions do you have? I think they've probably answered a lot of questions because they did share such, really fantastic information. But what other questions can we answer for you? Ellen.
Hi, I was just wondering, so on the application, is there like a different application or like a specific thing you're supposed to put to apply to the program when you're applying to Pitt?
So this is an upper division school, meaning that you are not applying directly into this program. You would apply into the university. Usually arts and sciences is where most students start, and they do their first 2 years in arts and sciences, and then they come in or they apply to this program during their sophomore year. And I saw that we had a question about when does the application open, and honestly that's a good question, and I don't know the answer because we have a new application system actually for this undergraduate program, and I'm not sure that it's available yet. I have not seen it. But we do accept the applications. It should open before January and is due by February 15th of the sophomore year. So Ellen, you would do your first 2 years in arts and sciences probably if you came to Pitt, and then you would apply during your sophomore year in the spring term, turning that application in by February 15th, and then by, we hope, the middle of April, we hope a lot earlier than that, we would give you an answer, would you be admitted into this undergraduate program or not? And so you would have an opportunity to swivel over to us or to make us, follow a secondary plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can, on the application to Pitt, you can indicate a professional interest. And if the benefit of doing that is that Pitt offers what they call freshman guarantees you can do one program. So if you were to identify an interest into, say, physical therapy, if you meet the criteria and you had identified that you're interested in physical therapy, they may grant to you what they call a guarantee into PT. And then as long as you maintain the requirements, which I think right now are that you maintain a 2.5 or 6, cumulative GPA and also science prerequisite GPA not throughout your term, but by the time you were applying to PT school, then you would be guaranteed into the PT program here, which is a nice benefit. So if you have a good sense of what you want to do, that's a really nice thing to try for. I've also had students who were who had a guarantee into one program, but ended up not being interested in that and decided to go into something else. And that's also, of course, fine. You're not bound to the program in which you have a guarantee.
Amy, we have another question in the chat. Would you like me to read it for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. In terms of previous experience in rehab or disability, what should students who are applying who don't have previous experience in this should do to gain more experience in this?
Okay. Well, a lot of our students would try to either shadow or volunteer at clinics. If you're here at Pitt already, then you can do that by looking at, well, UPMC is everywhere. They have volunteer offices at every single hospital, and you can contact their volunteer office and see if you can get in somewhere, in particular in rehab. UPMC includes Mercy, which is a great place to see rehab, Shadyside Presbyterian, the Kaufman Building, which I think is also Montefiore, Children's Hospital. Children's Institute is part of UPMC, but also runs as its own institution. So that one also has its own volunteer office. The Children's Home or Child's Way is related to the Children's Hospital. So all of these are places where you could do shadowing, or you could also get volunteer. In addition, there are freestanding non-UPMC places that you can try to get volunteer experience or do shadowing. And a lot of our students, before coming to us, work in the summer they work in camps for children with disabilities, or they work sometimes at nursing homes in a variety of positions. So anything where you're exposed to providing some sort of patient care, or just working with people in a way that you interact with them, and in particular working with people with disabilities, I think is really helpful. Now, another thing that we can do is, if you were to send either Natalie or myself an email, we can add you to our distribution list, or we might be able to do that anyway. I'm not really sure. And I do send out, as a few of the alumni said, I send out opportunities for working with people who need personal care attendants. And that's a really fantastic way to get experience and also to give service back to the community. But do any of our alum or Mia, do any of you have anything to add, like ways that you got experience or had exposure? Can you remember back that far?
I know I was at UPMC, but then I also did a lot with the VA, and I did the VA on campus, and then I also was fortunate enough to have a car, and I did the VA. I know it was kind of a hike, but they have a ton of volunteer opportunities there. At least they did, but that might be another spot to look.
Yes, super. Thank you, Morgan.
I can add, actually, part of the reason I got interested in physical therapy was my volunteer experience before being in the undergraduate program. I volunteered at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. I think I just went on the website, and then you go in for like a short interview. And I remember the volunteer coordinator said, "We need someone in physical therapy. Do you want to do that?" And I was like, "Okay, sure. That sounds good." And I know that there was a shuttle too that took you like right from Presby there. I didn't have a car, so you could do that as well. I think they have that for a lot of the UPMC locations.
I'm currently a volunteer at Children's. I've done it since my freshman year. And I know that we weren't allowed on the floors during COVID, and they recently brought us back onto the floors. And I know that they are looking for volunteers right now who are comfortable going on floors. And just right on their website, like Allison said, you can I think it's UPMC Children's Volunteer, and then you apply the interview, and all the volunteer coordinators are great there too. They're very friendly.
Thanks, Mia. And Rochelle put some good ideas into the chat. So she says a hospital elder life program, or we call it HELP for short, which is, they have one of the programs at Shadyside. They also have one at West Penn, I believe. And this is a really fantastic program that trains you really well to work with older patients to help them not lose their cognitive abilities by engaging with them intellectually, but also sometimes helping them with some physical movement or exercise. The Western PA School for the Blind, there's also the School for the Deaf. They also use volunteers and sometimes have positions for rehab aides. So yes, many of our students have gotten experience through them. And then the Boys and Girls Clubs absolutely are good places to get experience and to give service. We also have quite a few students who give service through a couple of the clubs on campus that work with families who are refugees or immigrants. And that's another good way to give service to the community.
I worked at like a children's nursing home essentially back for one summer I did that, and then my second summer, I think, well, that would probably be after you are already applied. So yeah, my first summer I did, I worked at a children's nursing home basically as a nurse tech. So it was fun because it was with lots of kids. And then my second and third and fourth summer, and then I eventually went on and worked there for a year as like my gap year was, I was a medical assistant at a family practice office. So you work with a ton of different types of people, and those were also just paid examples of things that you can do too.
Thank you, Becca. So other questions or ideas that you all want to share with each other? Any of you in our audience?
I have
Delaney, yeah. Oh, sorry. Delaney was having.
I just have a question about the prerequisites. I think I saw it on the bottom of the slide, but I just wanted to double check. I have AP credit for some of the classes. Does that count for the prereqs, or do I need to take it again at college?
That's a very good question. We do accept AP credit as long as the University of Pittsburgh does accept AP credit or gives you the equivalence based on your APs. We do accept that. Now, if it's one of the sciences, we would recommend that you go ahead and retake the class, which is the painful answer. But I think it is really, there seems to be a pretty big difference between most AP classes and actually experiencing it at college. So I think you're better prepared for graduate school and better prepared for our program if you were to retake at least science courses at college. You don't have to. We do accept them, but you might come across graduate programs that do not. For example, the OT program at Pitt does not accept AP. And I think you get a better experience, a harder experience, but a better experience, better preparation if you do it at college.
And then, sorry, just one more question. So you only accept students in the fall, right? Like there's no spring admission?
At this point, that is true. We have sort of toyed with the idea of potentially starting, beginning a spring admit, but at this point, we're just fall admit.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good questions. What other questions do we have?
We do have another question hand raised from you, Fawn.
Okay, so I want to graduate with the Bachelor of Philosophy with the Rehab Science. So once I enter the Rehab Science program, well, this program helped me to connect with the professor here to conduct independent research, since I'm really interested in independent research.
The question is, do we help you connect with faculty who are doing research?
Yeah, for getting the Bachelor of Philosophy.
Oh, for the BPhil, yes, we do. You can actually try to connect with the researchers in our school even prior to coming into the school. And that would be probably the most That would be very efficient of you. So if you go to the School of Health and Rehab Sciences website, shrs.pitt.edu, there is a tab for research. And on that tab for research, there is an area for undergraduate research. And you can look and see what research is happening at the school where the researchers are willing to work with undergraduates. If there is some sort of research opportunity that's happening there that's of interest to you, then don't hesitate to reach out either to the PI or see what department that research is happening in and reach out to the liaison for that department, because there's a liaison listed for every department that is offering research opportunities. There's also a form that you can fill out, just a little application, a very simple application where you just say your name and contact information, and then maybe your top 3 choices of research that's happening. And you can submit that, and then our research coordinator for the school would contact you and say, hey, I'm going to set you up with this person. So that's a good way to sort of get your feet in the door. And then if you hit it off with that faculty member and you are able to work with them and then identify independent research, that's certainly a potential for doing BPhil. But I'm going to let Rochelle speak to that because she did this whole process.
I basically went on research speed dating, and I met with a bunch of faculty members. I first did a little bit of research on what were some of the projects out there, and then the few that piqued my interest, I set up a lot of 20 and 30-minute just appointments with the professors just to learn more about their research and see if they had the means to take on a student. I also at the time had a faculty liaison assist with finding some nice matches, but that was the kind of combination. And I think it was on the 3rd person I spoke to that I had a really nice connection with, and I worked with not only the principal investigator, but one of their PhD students closely for 3 years.
Thanks, Rochelle. Yvonne, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good question. Any other questions while you have us? All right, then we are past time, and I appreciate our alumni and Mia for being here, and we appreciate all of you for joining us and being interested in the undergrad rehab science program. And please let us know if we can answer any more questions for you. Feel free to reach out and we will try to help you as much as we can.